Wait, we're supposed
Welcome
to have
everyone.
scripts?
God fucking damn it, Ken.
You're welcome.
All right, let's try this again and not have Ken interrupt me halfway through it.
Fuck you.
Welcome everyone to episode 21 of the Migtown podcast, your only weekly source for all things black.
That was a lot of black.
That's a lot of black, Drexel. You are a lot of black, as Miss Lore can attest to. Bonus episode coming out on the 25th. Make sure you guys pick it up on the Patreon or Subscribe Star. Thank you, Drexel, for that transition. As always, I am producer Tim. Joining me is Drexel. Say hi.
What's up, everybody?
And joining us today, our special guest, emphasis on special, Mr. Ken Jennings himself.
Thank you, guys. I like to be here. How's everyone doing?
Pretty good. How are you, Ken?
Besides seething at my boss right now, pretty much okay.
Okay. Sounds like you got a story.
Yeah, I got a text message a few hours ago when I was at Walmart. After having gotten off through the night, like after finishing my last client for the day. And to give a slight backstory to this, we migrated to an upgraded version of our therapy notes taking software, client management software, last week. I'm the one who does IT for our location. I do that too. So I do IT, I do therapy, I do sexual favors. It just depends on what the office needs. So and so I've been planning, and my boss is a boomer. Like, she sucks at technology. And
What else does she suck?
I don't know, actually. I haven't asked. But she has been kind of averse to lots of the tech changes I've tried suggesting. And I finally got her about a month or two ago to open up to the change, because they're eventually going to get rid of the old system because it's old as shit. And there's a lot of things wrong with it. And so it hasn't been a week yet. And I get a text message earlier this evening saying that she wants to go back to the old system because some of the staff are struggling to learn it, and that she hasn't been able to find any positives in the new system. And if we can't switch back to the old system, that she wants to find a new system. And I'm like,
oh yeah, we'll just Control Z.
Yeah, it's like, one, you can't just go back because that was part of it. Was a one-way thing, and you cannot undo it because they're getting rid of the old system anyway eventually. And two, because it was inside of the same company, they managed the data migration. So they did all the transferring of all the client shit and all the data, make sure it got into its new home and the new database shit and everything. If we go to a different company, I have to do all that. And that's not going to be easy to do. And that will take weeks of preparation, if not longer. So I'm going to see if I can, like, say, let's just do some more training that would make the more fucking sense instead of bailing out after a week. Like, I get it's complex. I get the shit's new. I get there's not things where they're normally supposed to be. But holy fuck, it's like, I just don't get it. Like, because she's not like she's a dumb woman. She's running her own business. She owns the business. She's very smart at it. She's business has grown significantly in the years it's been open so far. And so I'm sitting here like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with this information? Like, I didn't message her back because I didn't want to say anything stupid, because I was trying to keep my cool. And so I'm just going to send her a message tomorrow and deal with that shit tomorrow. I'm going to fuck off with you guys tonight and just enjoy the rest of my evening somehow. Probably masturbate during the show. Just unwind. That's the plan.
Oh, you too, huh?
Wait, we're not supposed to do that? Or are we supposed to do that? I didn't get the memo.
Not only are we supposed to do that, but you actually get bonus points if you can shoot it onto the microphone and have the microphone pick it up.
Well, I'm already doing that. Well, it's a fun topic since we're talking about masturbation and ejaculation tonight, because I believe that's one of the purposes of this show. Am I incorrect?
Yeah, we were going to talk about the inability to do any of that stuff
What
post
had happened
dads.
was,
So I swear this never happens.
no, man, it happens, man.
Oh no, it happens, and when it happens, it happens. Well, it doesn't happen hard.
It doesn't happen. It happens like really fucking soft, man. Like
Yes, it does.
soft and
And
limp.
so I went ahead and did a little bit of reading earlier. Didn't have as much reading chance as I wanted to, but I also was able to, and I'm going to post it in chat. Is I'm grabbing a differential diagnosis flowchart for diagnosing different sexual dysfunctions in men. This is this is an official thing that gets a companion thing that goes with the DSM. It's the Handbook of Differential Diagnosis to help you determine what you should diagnose someone with. It's actually a very useful tool that not a lot of people know about. So you can make fun of me all the fuck you want, but I'm gonna win on this one because it's a very useful tool.
I mean, I'm not making fun of you. I'm just, you know what? You, the listener, play along with us at home. I'll try to see if I could find a way to maybe put this up on the screen. I don't know if that's going to work or not.
Listen, my new shows are I'm ripping off of a technique from a new podcast I started following. If you haven't, and I'll just plug them because they're fucking hilarious. The Well, There's Your Problem podcast that they do like engineering disasters. A heads up that the people on there are like commies or Marxists or something. So they're very left leaning, but they do have a really good show. I'll give them that. So I listen to it. But they do just a show with slides. And so
Did they look at the bridge that a woman built that fell down at a university and killed 2 people?
are you talking about the one in fuck, where was it? They've
It
done
wasn't
like
very far from you, was it?
they've done a bunch. They've got like 60 something episodes now. Like their most recent episode was the one over the 2010 airplane crash that took out like half of Poland's government because they were all flying on the same fucking plane.
Damn, that's not smart.
Yeah, it actually caused a pretty big issue at the time because like literally half of the people, a good chunk of the higher ups, like the president was killed, other people in the cabinet were killed. Like it was a big deal.
So, Drex, what do you call an airplane crash with half of the US government?
You call a lot of
Improvement.
A
things.
good start. I mean, rip Poland, but still. I don't think there are a lot of people who shed tears because a government plane crashes.
There's a screen here. There's a big screen here. Am I missing a video or something?
No. I'm on my
Oh, okay.
home computer. I have a 4K TV hooked into my computer.
Yeah, okay. So let me close the rest of my stupid fucking windows because I got like 80 tabs open from the work I was doing today. So yes, I
Oh
have
my
80.
god. I'm just
Yes, I
reading
have
down this
ADHD.
thing.
Yeah, that's just one of them. There's like a bunch of different ones.
Don't bother,
So
Drexter. It's not going to come up with enough clarity on your tablet. We'll just ask you the questions and go through it.
I think Drexel has a little bit of a backstory to kind of provide to kind of set the stage for why I'm here, or a recap.
Yeah, take it away, Drex.
Well, I mean, there's the recap of in the 12 days of Thoughtmas. The very last day, of course, is the horrible incident at Thad's in San Diego, and that concluded with so basically, it concluded with first base of a suspected tranny, right? You know, it's one of those, well, no one can really confirm. To me, if there's a question, that means you are. You know what I'm saying? If if anyone has to question whether or not you are the gender or sex that you are displaying out in the open, if there's any questions at all, and it's like an area of contention, that means you are that. You know what I'm saying? So luckily, nothing went further than that. But that whole incident, as traumatic as it is, just like that, it's like, and then there you are. You are stuck with ED for 11 fucking months. So there are people out there who, they will joke about certain things, and that was actually one of the jokes in, I believe, it was The Hangover Part 2, where he ended up. I think the dentist dude got smashed by a trap, which is even worse if you're the bottom. So there are people out there who think that, like, because when women talk about their greatest fear, right? Other than like AIDS or some incurable disease, men and women have different uh, opinions or perceptions of what is considered the worst possible thing that can happen during a sexual encounter. For a woman, it is being taken against her will. That's women's greatest fear, which is why they have protocols to ensure that that doesn't happen, right? Whether it be telling a girlfriend where they are, all these little things that women do to make sure, okay, I got to make sure a guy doesn't take advantage of me. And then for dudes, a guy's greatest fear is that they hook up with some chick and someone's like, yeah, bro, that chick was a dude. Yeah. Yeah, that's a guy's greatest fear.
So tell me why that's a problem for you.
Well, here's the thing. Dude, if you're a heterosexual dude, smashing someone with a dick and or balls, or there ever was a dude, is a no-go, right? Because if you like, I'll put it like this. I want you to walk up to to a bunch of gay men in a gay club, right? And then go, hey, you guys ready to eat pussy tonight? And you know what they're gonna say? Ew, they're gonna be repulsed, right? If you go to a lesbian club and ask them to put their mouth to a dick, they're gonna be repulsed. See?
I think you're making a bad argument here. I'm gonna make a really weird argument.
Well, lesbians don't really exist. But I'm saying, like for gay men in particular, I mean, I bet you if you walked up and asked gay men to dive face first in pussy, what are they gonna say? They're repulsed by it. Repulsed. You don't hear gay men saying, "Oh man, I sure want it." No. It, and if someone can show me some video where you have a bunch of gay men saying that they are interested in the female midsection that down there downtown, then show it to me. That's not what they're into, right? So if they went to bed with with their partner and then like woke up somehow and all of a sudden, whoa, I'm face deep in the I'm assuming for a man, a gay man, that would be pretty traumatic. So for a straight dude, smashing a chick going like, oh man, yeah, she was bad. And then someone tells you like, yeah, that was a tranny.
Here's the thing though, is if you never get the notification or if no one ever doxes the trap or no trap or answers the question and you couldn't tell, it's like if a tree falls in the forest and no one's there to hear it, does it make a sound? If the dick inverts into the body and makes a vagina and you have sex with it, is it really a dick? Did you really fuck
Yes.
a man or did you fuck a woman? You
You
don't
still
know.
smash a dude.
You don't know.
That's the thing about your tree analogy, though, because whether or not it made a sound is irrelevant. The tree still falls. If you go back there in a week, the tree is still down. The wood's down, man.
Oh, the wood was down for 11 months, if I'm understanding correctly.
Yep.
So that tree
Yep.
fell and never got back up.
Yeah. It was an 11-month rebuilding mission. And well, one of the things I find that's amazing with the whole thing is we have this culture that's all about people's feelings. You see what I'm saying? And as you guys know, I give zero fucks about feelings. And we have this thing where everyone's trying to protect someone's feelings instead of just doing what the right thing is. And if someone says they're not into whatever something is, right? Like that'd be like no different than spiking someone's drink. You'd be like, well, I thought they would like it because it's not about what you like. If they said they didn't want something in their drink to be spiked, then they didn't want their drink spiked, right? So if a dude says, "Yeah, man, I'm only into natural born women who are fucking women," you see what I'm saying? They have to be an actual woman. If that's what someone likes, that's all they like. Trying to like deceive somebody or all that, and nah, man, that's weak. That's weak to me.
I'm not saying you should deceive, and there is an argument in the trans community about whether or not you should out yourself before your first sexual encounter with a partner, depending on if you're fully presenting or not.
I
Yep.
mean, not outing yourself is how they get killed.
You would be surprised it can go both ways.
Well, here's the thing. I had that conversation with Cress, and I'll have to have Cress on. And so here was my argument when it came to that topic, because Cress was basically saying like, well, I mean, if you guys are vibing and stuff, then it shouldn't matter or blah 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 because how this person's feeling, blah blah blah. And I said, hold on now. I said, by that logic, watch this. I have an incurable disease, right? Whether it's AIDS, herpes, whatever. Hey, it doesn't bother me. I'm okay with having herpes or AIDS or whatever, right? Hey, you and I are vibing. Everything is good. Let's have sex. And then the person goes, dude, you just gave me fucking AIDS. Well, if someone gives you AIDS or herpes or something, and then the other person goes like this, oh, I mean, it doesn't affect me. I don't care. I mean, everything's good. Do you guys see what the problem is? You don't get to dictate the terms and conditions of someone else's health, whether that be mental health, physical health, sexual health. Like, you don't get to dictate that. You see what I'm saying? So everyone who does the whole, like, a trap shouldn't have to tell you that he, she, whatever is a trap. Okay, yeah. So when the violence ends up coming, right, then everybody wants to cry foul. You see what I'm saying? We need to stop trans violence. We need trans people to stop lying and putting on fronts. If you are a trans person, you should be telling someone if there's any like positive vibe because of the person. There are people out there who could be passable, right? Who can go and blend into society and be fully passable, and a guy wouldn't know the wiser until when? Until the bedroom. And if you're post-op, I'm assuming, luckily I never got there. I'm assuming that the look and feel would be off. You know what I'm saying? Like because you can, modern science can do a lot of amazing things for better and for worse, but at the end of the day, anytime you're making a fake version of something that is real, it's never going to be the same. You see what I'm saying?
Well, I
So
will make the argument of the fact that the methods and techniques used to create the neovagina are built from decades of experience doing reconstructive surgery on traumatic injuries on female vaginas. So
mhm.
they are very much able to make a very realistic type of a vagina.
But type,
And
it'll never be the same.
but the thing is, unless you try it, you won't know.
You try first.
Yeah, I don't need to try. I don't need to
Yeah, I
try
don't need to
something to
try.
know I'm not gonna like it.
I know what you're saying though, kid.
Who's volunteering as tribute? So
Yeah. I get what you're saying. I just tell people like this. I make it as simple as can be. In order for an encounter to happen, both sides or all, let's say all sides, because you could be including more than two people. All sides should be equally informed and complicit, right? Because when you don't have that, you start getting into a whole bunch of problems. Like, prime example, how many times have we talked on this show, Tim, about when people are let's start naming off all the things that causes issues. Someone's on the down low, right? That's a problem. Someone is in a relationship that the other person does not know about, right? So Tim, do you remember what happened with the Christy Mack situation with War Machine? Remember? Imagine being the other guy. You're over at Christy Mack's house smashing Christy Mack, and you think you're having a great time, and then War Machine bursts through the door. And you're like, whoa. Huh? See, that guy did not know. He was not made aware of something. You see what I'm saying? And clearly he didn't expect War Machine to burst through being all crazy violent. So if someone says, well, hey, he had it coming to him because he smashed her, how's he supposed to know that Christy Mack was in a relationship? You see what I'm saying? Like we have this bizarro society, this clown world where people are basically saying like, well, I mean, just everything is about self. Everything is about just me, 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 me. No. I look at all parties involved. I'm like this. Look, whatever is, this need to know, whatever needs to be known should be known right then and there. So if someone walks up to you and says, yo, one thing I don't do is I don't get involved sexually with someone who's currently in a relationship who's cheating, right? I don't help people cheat. If you say I don't help people cheat, and then someone that I clearly know is in a relationship, if I withhold that information, that is a big deal. Now you could always say, "Oh well, I mean, you don't tell the person, how would they know?" But it's like, but you know that would be a discriminating factor. You see what I'm saying? If the person knew your relationship, they would say no.
There's a real life example of that principle in action.
What's
If
that?
if you're out of the club and you start talking to this nice girl, and you're like, we can hit it off, right? And you take her back, and on your way to taking her back, she's like, "Hey, I'm 16.
Yep, game over.
You're going to
Yeah,
jail."
yeah, I'm done.
It doesn't even matter, right? You can't go to the judge and be like, "Well, I mean, we just hit it off so well. What does it matter? Age is just a number,
Correct.
right?" No, you're going to jail.
You're going to jail, and you're suffering real consequences. And that's so Tim, that is my problem. That like so often we keep having this discussion where people just keep on basically saying it only matters for one side, right? So if a trans person is saying, "Hey, I want to get laid tonight," everything else that comes from everyone else doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is the trans person, what they want, right? Is that kind of how society goes now? Like it shouldn't matter if the person's trans, or if they don't tell you, then you still enjoyed it, and that should be no. Everything needs to be on the line, because I think that's a great analogy, Tim. Because if a girl sneaks into a club and she's 16 or 17 but has a 18 or 21 age ID, and then something she had engaged in sexual encounters, and then comes back later with a Me Too allegation, and you're going, well, hold on, man, she was here's what's crazy. In those situations, they don't hold anyone accountable other than the man who engaged in sex, right? If she got drinks at that bar, they don't go after the bar. They don't go after the bartender. They don't go after the venue. The only person they want to always go after is the man who was basically the last man who basically was in her vicinity, right? So, oh, you were the dude that had sex with this person? It's on you. And that's not fair, because here's the thing, Ken. I want you to imagine this. You have a woman who is infertile. She knows she's infertile.
I already don't believe this scenario.
Yeah, it's like so think about this for a second. You have a woman who's infertile. She knows she's infertile, right?
Okay.
She knows this, and then when you guys just discuss, long-term commitment, and you guys talk about marriage, and you talk about family, and she never mentions that she's infertile. And then you sign on the dotted line, hey, we're married, everything is going great, and we try to have kids. You're like, well, man, she has fertility issues. And then they go in and she's like, oh yeah, well, you've invested a house, cars, money, all these things that you invest within a marriage, right? Commitment, blah blah. Oh yeah, I've been infertile this whole time we've been dating. You see where the problem is? And if she goes, well, it shouldn't matter because I mean, it's this is okay for me. No. It has to be fair, informative, and consensual on all sides. So if you are a woman who's
agree.
infertile and you're with a dude who wants kids, you need to tell him, so he goes, hey, look, so just so you know, I know we're vibing, everything is cool. You said you want to get married and have kids. I am infertile, so this won't work. I need to be with somebody who doesn't want to have kids, and you need to go find a woman who is as close to me as humanly possible, but is fertile. You see how that is? It's open. Everyone knows what's going on, and then everyone can get what they want. A lot of the reason why you have so many problems out there in the world, and this includes hookup culture, this includes marriage, this includes all kinds of things. The workplace, it's a lack of communication and honesty.
Well, everyone's lying.
Everyone's lying. Dude,
Makeup is a lie.
Absolutely.
One of my legit things that I teach in almost all the counseling sessions I do is I basically tell everyone that anything that's bringing you into my office and then bringing you into counseling will at some point or another revolve around communication. It's like 99% of the things, whether it's with kids, adults, relationships, just most things revolve around communication.
True.
I agree.
Now, what there is in what happened at Thad's was an extreme lack of communication, and you get betrayed. And betrayal is the emotion that'll kill a boner pretty fast.
So you said, Drexel, that you got to first base, right? At Thad's. Okay. Did you start to get to second base, or did you not get that far?
No, that was when Miss San Diego pounded on the door.
Okay.
Right before
No.
the pounding started.
Yeah, right before, like, good timing.
Yeah, great time. Because, well, and I've always maintained this. If anything further would have happened, anything further than kissing, um, at that point, it's like severe psychological damage. And if I were a dude who was that kind of guy, this person is now risking serious physical damage. You see what I'm saying? Because when you hear these horror stories of when these trans people are getting beat down or yeeted, Tim, do you ever notice what time that happens? It doesn't happen when they're talking at the bar, right? It doesn't
No.
happen on the ride home. It doesn't happen when does the yeeting happen? When does that seem to happen?
In the bedroom.
But at what point?
Just before the coitus.
It's always when either just before or after. You see what I'm saying? Because if someone's post-op, it would most likely be after or something, right? But if there's anything down there, because in this case, this had to be post-op because I'm looking right at the lingerie and my hand is there and obviously there's no dick there. So if indeed this person was a trans person and there's no dick there, that means that this person is post-operation, right? Post-op. But at the end of the day, none of this is okay. You see, like, here's the thing. If there is any question at all, okay, and this goes back to what I said. The other people who were there should have said that up front. Because I'll tell you what, Tim, if I saw you talking to somebody, I'd be like, yo, Tim, well, let me pull you aside real quick. See, I'm informing you so that now it's up to you. Now, if you want to still choose to proceed, that's on you. But at least you had the information that could be a discriminating factor, and that was known to you up front. Because all the guys out there, especially the guys who are listening to this, you're not going to hear guys co-signing this fuck shit in general. It's predominantly women who are always like, well, it shouldn't really matter, but what about how she feels? Because she's been discriminated against all of her life. And I mean, you know how hard it's got to be for people. That's irrelevant. The fact that you don't care about how your actions and lack of communication can have profound effects, even permanent effects on the other person. The fact that you don't care says a lot about you. That's some sociopathic shit. That you could do something and be like, yeah, I know. I'm just going to go ahead and just go along with this and not say anything, knowing. And that's why where we're at now, Ken. We're at the point of super straight. Things have gotten so bad with so many people out here fucking lying and moving the goalpost about what is what in terms of sexuality that now we have super straight. Because if we didn't have super straight, where would we be, right? You would have people because have you noticed something? They've gotten to a point now where they're trying to dictate your sexuality. Like Riley J. Dennis says that you are transphobic if you don't date and have sex with trans people. Let that sink in. Because
Yeah, I don't like that.
if we apply that same logic though, Ken, to lesbian women, here's the thing, lesbian women and gay men, if we apply that same logic, everyone would say that's not okay, right? If we start having every time that there was some kind of like gay pride parade, if everyone was like this, no, you are going to have heterosexual sex, they would call this foul, right? Oh, this is not acceptable. If we start walking up to women saying, you better get a dick in your mouth. Oh, no, this is misogynistic. Yet whenever it's a straight man and then someone wants to dictate, you should be attracted to Lizzo. You should be, body positivity. If you're not into fat chicks, you're not into fat chicks. Okay. If someone says, you're transphobic if you're not into Riley J. Dennis and other trans people, it's like, if that's not what the guy wants, then that's not what the guy wants. The only group of people that they're always going after are the heterosexual straight men. You see that the whole cis male, especially they're going after white guys now more than ever.
They are going for those people, but I will say, and I make this point specific, is even though you see that specifically, there is a lot of the very vocal minority in like the trans community who is actually going after other trans people because they lean even slightly right. They will do anything they can to fucking destroy them and say some of the meanest, nastiest shit I've ever seen said to someone
I've
because
heard.
they have a different opinion. It's sad.
Yeah, well, and it's funny you say that, Ken, because Cress and I can have a conversation, and we can come from two completely different worlds. And I'll have Cress on the show at some point. And it doesn't matter if we have to agree on everything, but at least you can see where both sides are coming from, right? Like I've been
Mhm.
invited on Cress's show, and I was like, "Yo, Cress, this is where I'm coming from," right? So that you can kind of get an idea that, like, yo, look, if we can, okay, like I said, it doesn't matter if you have to agree on it. We need to agree on the big things. You see what I'm saying? Like, if someone says, "Hey, what do we need to agree on?" We need to agree on open communication, right? I think
Mhm.
that if you ask anybody, that would be pretty fair. Because Ken, what if guys were going out there or women were going out there, right? And not knowing someone's sexual orientation, not knowing someone's sexual health, right? If what think about it, that's some need to know shit, right? You'd want to know if a person that you're hooking up with is knowingly trying to give you something. That's a big deal, right? Because that's a discriminating factor. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Whether or not you're in a relationship, or God forbid you're married, someone can take off a wedding ring. And remember, I'm sure you've heard about this, Ken. A lot of people who are in relationships, especially married, are pretending to be single. You're fully aware of that, right?
Oh, yeah.
And they aren't telling the other person, right?
Yeah, it does happen. And
And
I
that's
don't like
not
that.
that's not fair to the other person, though. Wouldn't you agree?
Mhm.
But what if the person who's doing it, which is the person in a relationship, is like this? Well, it shouldn't matter because I mean, hey, we're vibing together, we're getting along so well, and the sex is great, so it shouldn't matter that I'm married. It's like that's not fair. Like, look at how insane that sounds. Which is why Tim uses that whole analogy with the underage girl. Like, oh, it shouldn't matter that I'm underage. It's like, yeah, well, it does. It may not matter to you, but this dude could be facing life in prison or the death penalty based on where he lives. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it is a big deal. And if someone says, "Well, I mean, smashing traps shouldn't matter. I mean, as long as you're vibing." Well, if it's going to cause psychological damage, then yes, it does matter. I don't know where we got to a society where everyone has this me, me, me attitude, but like, Ken, if you apply the same logic to just like every kind of interaction, right? Like someone says, "Hey, Ken, you go to your job every day. What if your job just suddenly stopped paying you, right? You work, you're like, hey man, tomorrow is payday. You show up and you're like, where's my money? Oh, you know what, Ken? See, here's the thing. We figured it would be best for everybody if we just didn't pay you. Because look, then we get to keep more money and invest that into you, into, we're gonna put more money into your 401k. You're like, give me my fucking money because I can decide what I'm gonna do with my money. You see how that works, Ken?
Oh, yeah.
You want your money so that you could, because if they, here's the thing, Ken, if you knew up front that they weren't going to pay you and they were going to choose how to spend your money that you worked for, your labor, right? You
You wouldn't
exchange
be there.
labor for resources, you wouldn't work there, would you?
No,
You would say, I'm not
not at
working
all.
here then. You see what I'm saying? So how can we let someone dictate?
It's unless you agreed on that arrangement ahead of time.
See, yeah, ahead of, and that's all I'm saying, Ken. As long as you know the deal up front, which is how, that's how labor unions work, right? That's why there's bylaws, because someone goes, hey, the law in this state states that you have to work, that if you work anything over 40, it's overtime. And then there's certain jobs that, like Hollywood is a prime example, right? Where they're like, hey, man, we may be shooting for 16 hours today. We may be shooting for 18 hours. And we can't have these laws in the way because for these reasons, right? Because they're the way they work is very unique. So they have bylaws due to unions, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing with this. If you walk up to a job and they tell you, "Yo, this is how we pay people," a lot of people say, "Well, I don't want that. That to me, that's a bad deal." Well, guess what? There's a lot of guys who are super straight who don't want to smash someone who has or ever had male genitalia. You see what I'm saying?
And I understand why people feel that way. I if you're open to trying it, go for it. If not, that's your thing.
So
You
let's go
shouldn't
back to
be
this flow chart because I'm really
okay.
curious.
Well, so I'm asking pertinent questions. That's why I was asking about how far we had gotten. So let's go to the moment post Cynthia coming in. So she outs that person. What's going through your mind?
Well, I remember it was kind of like a mind racing. Like, WTF moment, right?
Mhm.
Because I just got thrown a curveball. You see what I'm saying? Like if anyone throws you a curveball, you're gonna just have this like that was not part of your plan. That was not part of what your night was supposed to be, right? So at this point, this is the reason why when she and I had that disagreement on that, I told Miss San Diego, I said, you can't be shocked at how I replied to the information you gave me, right? What I did with that information. Because if you've ever been around me, you know what kind of personality I have, right? It's very direct. So if someone tells me, we don't know for sure, but we think this person was born a guy, right? I'm not
Mhm.
going to go in there and be like soft on people's feelings. That's just not how I am. If you give me that information and someone asks what's wrong, I'm going to say it exactly like that. Like, yeah, man, they just said you're a dude. You can't be, and that's what shocks me about the society we live in now is that once again everything is about feelings. Because Ken, no one ever asked me what I felt like feeling like I got duped. You see what I'm saying? I felt betrayed. I felt a lot of things, right? Because in that
So
moment, because Ken, if someone were to come into your office and say, "Yeah, at this moment, I had all these different feelings," right? I felt betrayed. I felt, like I said, I felt duped, right? You have that sense of like, wait, whoa, hold on now, what are we doing here, right? But everyone's
yeah,
always about like how did the other person react, and that's what matters, right? Like, I can't believe you said that because you hurt their feelings. Like their feelings, like what? No one cared about my feelings, right? No one said, "Oh man, that's horrible."
because it's not like a normal interaction, right? It's not like a social interaction. You're talking about a sexual interaction, which requires at its core every party to consent. And like you
Yep,
were saying, you can't have a situation where one person is forcing you to be into something you're not, or to try and do something you're not. Like, the whole like not to go off track again, but like the Riley Dennis, you need to be able to do it, or you're transphobic or whatever. So you were put in a situation, whether intentional or not, that was probably very shocking to deal with, to say the least.
yep.
And I could imagine probably at least a half a dozen words to describe what was going through your head and how you felt in those seconds and minutes afterwards.
Yeah, it was serious, man. Because when you're in that position, remember, there's no warning, right? Like, I mean, you think about the things in your life, like, okay, do you remember that infamous George W. Bush video where I think he was like, when 9/11 happened, he's like reading to kids. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
I think
that
that was
was
what happened, right? Like George W. Bush is like he's like literally sitting here reading to kids, and then like Secret Service guys walk up to him, whisper in his ear. And do you remember the look on his face? Like, and people are like, why did he react like that? Okay, imagine all the things that he's used to hearing, right? Like, "Oh, sir, we need you to come because this happened." Of all the briefings that George W. Bush had within his first year in office, he never had a briefing or someone whisper in his ear, "Hey, man, planes just crashed into the Twin Towers." You see what I'm saying?
yeah, it's a
It's a pretty
definitely
big deal.
it's a unique event, pretty
Yeah,
much.
yeah, yeah. This is not an everyday event. Like, whereas you and I both know if someone came in there and said like something about his kids, even if it was urgent, he would kinda have a different reaction, like, "Oh, damn. Well, hey, everybody, I have to, go out here to go handle something." He's because that's something that's more familiar, right? Something
I
that
think
deals with, like, the political scene or personal scene is something familiar. Terrorist attacks is not familiar to people. You see what I'm saying? Especially not in
I would
America, at
also
least.
think I also think in that situation, because I don't remember how long he was there. I think it was like 5 or 6 more minutes or something. And I think it would have looked bad, like, if the detail had, like, grabbed him and tried to run with him. Because it's on television, it's gonna be televised, everyone's gonna have a copy of it now. And
Mhm.
so, while it can be difficult to, you know, maintain your composure in front of kids, because you got kids there too, you could freak them out. Finish what you're doing, kinda ease out of it real quick, and step because, like, there's nothing in those 5 minutes that you're gonna do that's gonna change anything.
Correct.
They're already scrambling jets, they're already doing all the shit they're gonna need to do. Firefighters already on scene. Like, at this point, you're just there to talk to people. You're gonna be doing a press conference at some point in the near future, and that's it. Yes, you're gonna be coordinating with, like, intelligence people, but it's not that's time sensitive.
Yep.
In that moment, it's still 5 minutes, you can burn 5 minutes because the
I
look
agree.
and how it presents to the nation has a bigger impact than any 5 minutes that you saved by just burning the fuck out of there, because 'cause you'll look like shit. Even
Correct.
though people characterized him being shitty by not doing anything, it comes off stronger to be able to hold your composure like that in a very difficult situation.
Well, absolutely, because and that's the thing. Here's the thing though, Ken, is that like what happened when I'm there that night at Fads. When you hear these horror stories about trans violence and stuff, there's people that think about it. They get that news, they would react violently. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. And
I
it's
didn't. I wasn't about my situation is this. I didn't go far enough for me to, feel like
you're
that
getting
level of
close.
betrayal or whatever. It's just kind of like, eh. I mean,
So
I just took the L on the chin. I was kind of like, hey, this is an L I gotta take. I'm just gonna state my piece with this person and say this is the information that was told to me. I have to leave. You see what I'm saying? I'm not gonna punch you. I'm not gonna kick you out. That's just I don't know. Like it's not who I am. It reminds me of Ken. It reminds me of when people talk about what they would do if they caught their significant other in bed with another person, right? And
you
I've
can
heard people talk
fantasize
about,
about it, but you won't actually know what you're gonna do until you're in that moment, in
well,
that
true.
setting.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing I know about myself. I have an abundance mindset in my regards to women. So me seeing that, I'm just kind of like this, charge it to the game. Because when put into a situation that's a once in a lifetime crazy scenario, I didn't use physical violence against this alleged trans person, right? I was
Mhm.
like, I stated what I said, turned around and just left. It's like I can keep myself composed. So, and that's the thing, it's like whatever happened to being able to keep that composure, like you said, and just moving forward. Like, yes, you can suffer later and deal with all the all the emotions and the philosophically, right? Like what just happened? Like you start contemplating quite a bit. But in the moment, kind of like what happened to George W. Bush, someone hits you with some information that's so far out of left field, you're just kind of like, oh, okay. Like, I mean, what are you going to do? Right. I mean, eh.
So there's an argument to make that, and I think because I've had similar discussions about this, about someone like not outing themselves and then telling you like after you've had sex with them. And there's an argument about whether or not that could constitute rape or sexual assault because you gave consent under false pretenses.
I agree it is.
So there so you could have technically, depending on how you construe it, that could be looked at as rape or sexual assault at the very least.
Yeah.
So you have this incident happen. Did you leave immediately? I don't remember. Like after you
Yeah.
talked to the
So,
person, you left.
so I told the person, um, I told the person like what was told to me, right? Which is basically, yo, they said you're a dude. And this person got mad. And actually, no, I tell you that I recall they left first because when I told them that, they got mad, turned and left the room. Now I was in the room for like 2 seconds. I just kind of like looked around like, did that really just happen? And then I remember I left. So yeah, if I recall, they did leave first. Like I said, I can't remember. I'm pretty sure they left first, and then I turned around and left. But yeah, that was that. It just was like,
Did you
eh.
go home afterwards, or what was the
No,
like
no,
next
so
stop?
I was still in the club, and then, like,
Okay,
the drama started to unfold now, right? Because then, you know, now you've got, the Cynthia person going to find Miss San Diego, you see what I'm saying?
yeah.
So now, because now you've created this level of discord. So, they go to find each other, and then, like, that caused drama because as you know, at this particular club what Miss San Diego did constitutes a permanent ban. Like knocking on the door of people who are in in a room that's locked can constitute a permanent ban. Like these clubs, it's like any other club, right? They have strict rules about your conduct, right? So it is what it is, and like we because so we didn't talk about it really until like that next day, because
Okay.
we eventually left the club that night, go home, shower up, go to bed, and like that next morning, it's like, what just happened last night, right? Like, because now you're trying to go through everything that happened with, you're trying to, retrace all your steps. So that's kind of how that unfolded.
Did you have like any feelings of shame afterwards?
Absolutely not. Um,
Why not? Why not? You almost had gay sex if you look at it that way.
yeah. So here's the reason why it was easy for me. Okay. So in the moment, right? Like in the moments right after, we're talking like next day, 24 hours, right? My thing was more of, wow, wow. I just kind of kept in my mind, I just kept thinking like, wow, like, because you guys know I just tell stories from my past, like, like anything else. Like, oh yeah, man, then this happened. I mean, like, you weren't here for that, Ken, but I just told the completely ridiculous Easter story, right? The Easter fuckery. And to me, it's just at the time, I remember thinking like, this is a crazy story. That was kind of like my mind at the time, right?
Yeah,
But in that time, I've always been comfortable with my sexuality. So, so someone said, like, if someone tried to shame me, how can you shame me if I make fun of myself? You see what I'm saying?
true.
Like, yeah, well, what do you want me to say? Like, I didn't know up until this point, and then this is information that was presented to me, and then I ended all contact after that. You see what I'm saying? Like, so shaming me is like, I'm just that comfortable. Like I'm laughing with you. If someone walks up to me and starts talking about fads, all I can do is laugh, right? It's like, well, what do you want me to say, man? I took a L that night. I took a major L. That's how I viewed it. Now remember, the other problems did not present themselves until when? Until it came time for me to like, get back out there and do what I do. And all of a sudden I realized, what the hell? I lost my mojo. See, in the moment, Ken, you don't know you lost your mojo, right? You,
How
you don't
many
know it till you
days
know
was
it,
it
right?
between the incident and then the next time you attempted intercourse?
Yeah. So here's the thing. I didn't attempt intercourse after that.
Okay,
During that time, I just realized that I lost. Someone goes, "Well, how do you realize you lost your mojo?" The same sex drive I had before just wasn't there. You could put me on like an app, and I could be like looking like I still like I'm still looking at women like, yeah, she's bad. But there's a certain drive that you have to have, right? Because think about it, Ken. It would be like this. I bet you before his death, I bet you Hugh Hefner could have looked at Playboy bunnies and not been sexually interested, right? Because he's been so overexposed to Playboy bunnies, right?
true.
But whenever Hugh Hefner was at that point where he has like his sex drive, he's like, oh man, tonight I just really have that urge. Now those Playboy bunnies was now they become sexually appealing as opposed to just physically appealing. You see what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
the women stayed physically appealing. Like it wasn't like I could go out to like the gym and not be like, "Ooh, yeah." I can look at a woman, recognize that she's attractive, be attracted to her, and be like, "Damn, that would look good from hitting it from the back." But like you know that the male sex drive is very real, and a man needs to have that oomph. Imagine if you take away the oomph, right? The oomph is what causes a lot of teenage boys to jerk off in a sock or whatever else. You see what I'm saying? It's the oomph. Like they see the girls all day. Think about it, Ken. It's delayed satisfaction, right? These boys see girls in school that they're attracted to. Well, they don't just go in the bathroom or whip out their schlong right there in class. No, it's repressed. Then after school, when they sit down and watch porn, that's when they're like, "Oh my god!" Maybe they're thinking about the girl in the class, or maybe they're just focused on the images on the screen. But either way, they still have to have that oomph in order to get the job done. Once you lose that oomph, you're just kind of like, "Yeah, they're still bad, but damn, yeah, something's off."
Well, you know that like there's a moments where you can begin a session and never quite finish it, and you're just like, man, I'm just not into this.
Yep, very real. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well, porn stars talk about that. They say they call it falling flat. Like when I remember watching a Vlad TV interview with Lexington Steele, the porn star, and he was there with one of the girls. I think it was like Nikki Benz or somebody or Phoenix Marie. And he talked about. He goes. Yeah, he said. I think he said it happened to him like twice. where he's like, yo, as a dude, and you know this, Tim, any man can tell you, guys can just have an off night. Because remember, unlike women, we have to rise to the occasion. If a woman is not really feeling it, she can always just be like, yeah, let me just get this lube, squirt the lube. It's still mechanical for her. See what I'm saying? Like every position that she's in is mechanical. So she can just lay back. That's why they say, the whole lay back and take it. A woman can do that. A guy cannot. Because at the
Mhm.
end of the day, the guy, like, even if a guy pops a Viagra or a Cialis, okay, that doesn't mean that his dick just stands up. You still need to have the oomph, because I bet you if you told a guy right now, just take a Viagra, there's no guarantee that his dick's going to stay hard. He's going to keep an erection for 2, 3, 4 hours, and they have to call a doctor. You see what I'm saying? That's how simple it is. It's the oomph. It's that hidden element of the male sex drive that it's like, almost like it gets overlooked. Like it's the oomph. But men never lose. Listen, you guys know that you could walk up right now, ask a stage 4 Migtown monk, be like, "Yo, are you attracted to women?" And they will tell you, "Yes." I don't look like he'll tell you, "I'm still a man," right? It doesn't matter how red pill you are. You can still look at women like, "Yeah, I can look at her and be like, oh yeah, yeah, she's hot." I'm fully aware that she's hot, but I have quenched my thirst. So then you have guys who just like this, like, yo, I'm not getting into any relationships with any of these women, and I can acknowledge that they're attractive. I understand how women are and what they're trying to get out of me. So I'll just have these casual relations and then keep it moving. You see what I'm saying? It's all just based on where someone's coming from, and like just responding to their own stimulus around them. Like, oh, that girl's in booty shorts, Ken. Well, you choose how you're gonna respond to, this girl being in booty shorts. Are you gonna be a thirsty monkey simp? Or are you gonna go, jerk off to porn later? Or are you just gonna kind of ignore it and just be like, I'm just gonna keep lifting weights. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and and even with Viagra, it doesn't mean you're walking around with a heart on the whole time. It just makes you more easier. It makes it much easier to suddenly get an erection and then sustain it. It doesn't mean you're just gonna have it. You still
Correct.
need to have some mental investment in the activity, or you will lose it. You may not go like full flaccid, but you're still gonna lose like a full erection. So intercourse may or may not be doable at that point. And so
Correct.
it's not just like you can, you know, yes, you can do other things as far as like to replace the mechanical part of it, if of like, using like different aids like extenders or strap-ons and shit like that. But it doesn't replace the full on this is, my sexual organ penetrating your sexual organ because you can make up the lube versus trying to make up the blood pressure and the erection. It's not the same.
Absolutely.
Now, because I've been thinking about this uh, for a while because we've been talking about this subject and throwing back and forth doing this discussion is when you first had those first few times you recognized that it happened. Like, how was that feeling for you? Like, besides the oh shit, I don't have this. Was there like sadness, guilt, embarrassment, regret, any other like anything that like you remember that like hit home?
No, if memory serves me right, um, it was kind of like a slow process, right? It's like at first you're just kind of like, you remember, like I said, it's you're talking about an 11-month span, right?
Mhm.
So at first it's like, month one, but I would say like month one, maybe month two, you're kind of like, maybe I'm just kind of getting over what happened at Thad's, right? Like, that's kind of how your brain rationalized, right? Like it was just a weird time. Oh, you kind of try to shake it off. And that was kind of weird. And then all of a sudden you're at month 3 and 4. And you're like, I mean, I'll get back into the swing of things. I'm just, Thad's was just so, man, that was so messed up. I don't know why my mojo's not quite back right now like it used to be. It used to just be like literally automatic. It was like I saw what I like to see, and it was like it's go time. Whereas then I was kind of like, damn, it's I'm just having like a little off time, right? I'm just psychologically I'm off because of what happened, right?
Mhm.
Then you get to like month, I would say like, like I said, 5, 6, 7. It's not that here's the thing, I never once believed that it was permanent. That's the key thing I do remember that. I knew it wasn't permanent. It's just I'll tell you what it reminds me of, Ken. You ever notice like in sports, an athlete is at the top of his game, he suffers a major injury, right? Like a blown out ACL or something, right?
Mhm.
He goes and gets the surgery and does the rehab, and he's like, I think she's trying to get out of his own head, right? Have you ever seen what happens when he gets back out on the field or on the court or on the ice? You remember what happens to him?
He's horrible. No, he's terrible.
He's terrible, right? Now physically he's been cleared to play, right? The doctor says, "Hey, we checked him out." And so when someone says, "So Ken, what's wrong with the guy?" Right? Why isn't this guy able to do what he was doing before? The reason is mentally. So he knows that his knee is good to go, but he has this weird thing in his head where it's like, I don't want to re-injure it. Right? That's why he doesn't. What made him who he was that he played with reckless abandon.
It was like when Cam Newton returned from his concussion, the bad one he had where he got knocked completely out.
Yeah.
Right, and then he stopped doing the head first dives for the first down. You notice that?
Yep.
There was also one where there was a strip sack fumble. The ball was laying beside him, and he went to dive for it, and then he pulled back at the last second.
Yep. Yeah. It's and you could make an argument, a valid argument, especially in football, which is a pure collision sport. That is, I think he's basically displaying like shell shock, PTSD, because think about it. He would have always dove on the ball up until what Tim? He had that catastrophic head injury, right? The old Cam Newton would have just been like, oh, the ball, we got to preserve the
got to get this first down.
possession. Yeah, I just go. That's my job. It's what you've been doing since you were playing Pop Warner football. All it takes is that one major bam, you get cracked good one time. Now all of a sudden, you don't quite got that reckless, because you can always play with reckless abandon until something bad happens, and it makes you second guess, and it manifests differently in different people, different scenarios. So that's basically, it was the same thing, right? So if I'm sitting there saying, "Oh no, I think I'm good," in my mind I say I'm good. Yet I'm looking at my body and how I'm responding to the things around me. I'm like, why am I not doing the things I normally would be doing? It's clear that I'm not ready psychologically. Yeah, physically my body is exactly the same, right? Everything is good. I know everything works, and I'm like, I'm off. My body is off. And that's what happens. It's the same thing that happens to athletes.
Were you highly skeptical of any partner in the months following?
Nope.
Not at all?
No. I'll be honest with you. I was more skeptical after family court, right? Because family
Okay.
court is more of someone's trying to take things from you. You see what I'm saying? It's like these guys who get Me Too'd.
But you're talking about a different level of fear. Your fear with, dating someone or being with someone sexually after family court is a fear of the way they could, ruin your life. They could, get pregnant. There's a lot of shit there.
Yep.
Versus here, where the fear isn't anything like that. It's a totally different type of fear. It's a fear of
I didn't
having a similar sexual encounter with the one that started this.
I didn't believe for a second that I would ever be in an encounter like this, to be honest with you. Like, it wasn't like fads could happen again. I never once felt that. It was basically fads happened. I took a major L, one that I can at least laugh at because I didn't go any further than first base. Because I mean, anything further, and I think you're talking about serious psychological damage. But first base, I mean, you laugh it off, right? Like, and you laugh it off as best you can. You're just kind of like, wow, like that really fucking happened. But at the end of the day, you're just basically trying to get out of your own head. You try to get out of your own head because, like I said, it's no different than being an athlete. I've been through 2 knee surgeries. I know what it's like to be, you just don't have that trust in your leg. You're like, I mean, I know they say I'm good. I just don't feel right. And it's like, it's because you're you just haven't been doing it, right? Like you
Mhm.
know, since the last time you've been out there, it could have been 6, 8 months. So you're not as familiar, the muscle memory, but you're like, it's just that mental hurdle. And that's why they always call it a hurdle, right? Once you get over it, you're over it, right? So one of the things I did find to be very, very telling though, Ken, is that what helped me get out of that whole funk, it was not a new person. It was not a new chick. I got out of the whole funk by going to somebody that I knew, I trusted her, we're cool, everything was good, right? Whereas you would think, I think that kind of makes a lot more sense, and I'm sure you would agree. Whereas if
Oh,
someone
that's
said,
it's very telling.
it's very telling, right? Because remember, some guys would just go like this: I'm just going to meet some random chick and just hook up, just to get myself back in the saddle. I didn't. By the time I had reached the end of that 11 months, like when we're going, I would say like going into like month 10, I was talking to her, and because like I said, we've known each other for so long, and I remember talking to her and being like, "Oh yeah, I'll come and visit or whatever," right?
Mhm.
Well, I'm coming to visit someone that, like I said, I already know. You see what I'm saying? Like so, if anyway, and I remember thinking this: if she always gets the juices flowing, right? Then there's no way that I can show up there and then because in a sense, Ken, that's kind of like the litmus test, right? If there's a woman who gets your juices flowing every time, right? You don't have any problem with erection, and then you show up and everything is cool. You're like, oh yeah, I'm good. I'm still me, right? What would be scary would be if we're going back to that time. What if I had gone there to go visit my old friend and I don't have my mojo? Then now it's like, oh no, this is a real problem. You see what I'm saying? But when I went over there to go visit her, yeah, it worked. I maybe even told her about like, yeah, that shit was. Yeah, I did tell her about it. I do remember that because that's when she told me about a lot of what's going on with the whole trans thing. 'Cause I had never really been exposed much to that up until that point. And then she started telling me stuff about, some of the way that these dudes are on the down low and blah blah blah, and the way that trannies are moving out here in the streets. And I'm thinking, God damn, really? So once I got over that hurdle, and yeah, it was done after that. Basically, I was like, oh man, that really sucked. You know what I'm saying? Like, damn.
So there's this, whether you admit to it or recognize it or not, there's a clear lack of trust in any new sexual partner for the entire time period afterwards. Because
Absolutely.
even though you may look at them and find them attractive, being able to have any sort of sexual arousal from it is significantly limited to non-existent. And I'd use this, and I'm not poking fun at you or being mean, but when you say, you only went to first base, you can laugh it off. It's not a big deal, but if it wasn't a big deal, would we have really had this problem for 11 months?
I don't think so. This thing, when I say not a big deal, it wasn't like I said, I never once believed it was permanent. So, like I said, in my idea, like I'm trying to think of like if there's a situation that could be equal. I'm trying to think of like a situation where a guy could go through and he could say like, "Oh man, this was so messed up." Like, I'm talking about something that doesn't like involve like violence. Like, I don't mean like you hooked up with a chick and she did some Amber Heard crazy shitting in the bed kind of story. You see what I'm saying? Like I'm just saying like a within a normal parameters. I personally I can't think of it. If anything, I would say women would actually have this easier because here's what a woman would say: a woman could get with a guy, and let's say she doesn't know that she's a squirter, and a guy makes her squirt, right? And
Mhm.
the guy is like repulsed. And I've actually known a couple of chicks who have had this happen, and they said they were so like embarrassed and everything that they basically held back orgasm after that, right? Because they were so embarrassed. So I think that it would be more prevalent in women as opposed to dudes, and in this case in particular, me, because I always just viewed it as like a one-off. Like, yep, I took a L this night at Thad's. It sucked, but here I am. I'm still standing. Yeah, like I said, yeah, I didn't go with for anyone new. No, but I remember the thought wasn't even on my mind to take to try someone new. I was like, no, I'm good. And so when I finally was like, yo, let me get, make myself get back into the groove. Yeah, I went with the safe bet. Absolutely.
So that's where it does, because if you were able to go from like no real sexual activity for 11 months to being able to, first time you hang out with this person, you're able to have, sex and there's no problem. There's the likelihood of it being like a physical problem, right? Minimal to non-existent. This was
Hmm.
clearly specifically psychological,
Yep.
right? So that's where you have to start digging into, like, if you were one of my clients, I would start digging into things because you can admit to being okay with things and you may feel okay with things, but you're not really okay with things. This is where I start asking questions that get you to challenge some of your own beliefs about yourself. I will ask you questions that specifically will, I did it earlier tonight with one of my clients. It's a kid, he's almost 13 or something, but you know about whether or not some people's statements he was okay with if he could laugh them off or if they bothered him, and he was like, no, they don't really bother me, but he does get upset whenever someone specific people say him because he does
Really?
really care about it even though he says he doesn't. So that's kind of the same application here. Even though we may consciously feel like it doesn't matter, or we may be tricking ourselves into thinking it doesn't matter, there was still something traumatic to you to cause you to not be able to have sex for 11 months.
Yep. Here's what I've always maintained. So because that was what I mean, that was almost like almost a decade ago. Crazy how much time flies. The thing about that whole scenario, right, is that because especially with the passage of time, it's just like in my mind, it's just another story. It's just another life experience, right? Um, at that time, what I noticed though, Ken, you think about things that have happened in your life, like as a kid, I can remember the worst ass whooping I ever took, right?
Mhm.
There was nothing fun about it when it happened. You see what I'm saying? But now when I look back on it, I laugh. And it's the same with this. Like no one on this earth can ever like use like shaming language against me because I just have that level of confidence. So if someone says like, "Yo, Drex, something about Cynthia," I would just laugh because like, "Yeah, well, what do you want me to say, man? Yeah, it happened." And I mean, I remember getting teased in the day. I was talking to this chick. I must have been shit. I must have been about 14, I believe.
Okay.
8th grade going into ninth grade, right? And there was this chick I talked to from the mall, and, she looked kinda cute. We're talking, everything's good, and she was with her friend, and I'll never forget, it's like, well, "Did you tell him your secret?" I'm like, "What?" And this was the friend saying that, like, "Oh, yeah, look at this." And the chick had 4 fingers, bro. So 3 fingers and a thumb. And I'm like
Interesting.
like and so I remember telling dude because, like I said, I'm me, right? Like, you know how it is when you're a teenager. You go back and tell your boys, like, "Man, you wouldn't believe this shit." And it became like it was like a running gag where,
Mm,
a couple of my buddies would say something like, "Hey, Drex, is it 4?" And they would just, throw up their fingers. I would just be like, "Oh God, fuck you guys." But like
mm,
it was no big deal because like I said, I think with self-deprecating humor, all that stuff, like when you have confidence, certain events aren't ever really as traumatic as they would be. Like they just become a part of your life story. Like, yeah, okay, yeah, this happened because no one's life is just like this, sunny, peaches and cream and rainbows and everything and sunshine. It's like, no, there's things that happen to you that are like traumatic but funny, traumatic but sad. Like think about it. An ass whooping, right? When I took the worst ass whooping of my life is when I almost burned the house down, right? And I was about 8 years old, and I almost burned the house down. And it was the absolute worst ass whooping I ever took. The second worst ass whooping I ever took was when I took a dump in the fucking tub, the bathtub, right? Well, when you get your ass whooped that bad, it is traumatic. Like I got my ass whooped. I was ass naked. My dad made me clean the bathroom, take a shower, so I'm naked, and I got my ass whooped while naked and wet with a switch. Okay. It's unbelievably painful to get hit with a switch, period. But especially with a wet body,
Yeah,
ask
that
all your
seems a
black
little
friends.
excessive. Just saying.
Oh no, no, look, man, these are Southern parents, man. There's no such thing as excessive. They
No, I
whoop that
disagree.
ass.
There's still some levels of excessive in there. Punishing you by spanking versus stepping it up to like a level of humiliation by making you do
I
it
needed it.
naked.
I needed it.
Did you though?
I needed it. I did
Yep.
because it never
That's
happened to me.
that's that white privilege coming out here.
Yeah,
Drexel's
man.
white
I
privilege?
wasn't I wasn't
Yeah,
a
I
good
know.
kid, man. I told you guys how I ended up with a daughter. I was doing too much bad shit in the street. So
You shouldn't have
for
sex in the street.
yeah,
I Actually, that's probably the safest place.
yeah, right. Especially now, get the traffic cams going,
Yeah, you get 19 witnesses.
right? Well, here's the thing, though. So the way that my parents grew up, they always believed in the end. The end justifies the means, right? So in their mind, it's not about what means were used. Did you do it again? All right, Drex, did you ever try to burn down the house again by playing with fire and matches? Nope. Did you ever take a dump in the tub again? Nope. The worst whippings I ever took were when I did the most egregious things. So the ass whooping, basically reflected the fact that I did something that was way out of bounds. You see what I'm saying? When you almost burn your parents' house down, that's a serious thing, right?
I didn't
So
say
just
it wasn't.
like a talking to may work for some people, yelling may work for some people, but for a kid like me who was hard headed, you had to just you had to step the ass whipping up to a whole different level, right? Once you do that, it's like, okay, yep, I got it now. Yep, I got it. Yep, I'm good. That's never gonna happen again, and it didn't.
Because if your
Um,
parents are working off of the ends justify the means and that kind of model, it's kind of irrational because that is a very easy way to basically there's no there's no thing you can do as a parent that's incorrect. Everything you do is justified. And that's not always correct because you can do some fucked up shit to your kids and it will fuck them up for life. But if you're justifying it in your mind with everything and you slowly build up, and so maybe when you were first born or whatever, they may have spanked you differently. But as you got older, they maybe got more bold. Maybe they did things differently with your, say, if an older sibling or a younger sibling. So it can lead to a lot of dangerous shit. That's why, in general, now I don't have it. I don't like corporal punishment because there are ways that it can cause long term damage psychologically, where you can still get the same effect of what you had to do to address the almost burning the house down. So, not that it was, your parents' fault for, knowing things or not knowing things. Like that's sometimes a product of the environment and other shit, right? That's out of
mhm.
your control. But, moving forward, is that kind of the same thing you would do to your kids? You know, is it the same? Do you use the same logic for your children? Do you use the same logic for people in your life?
Well, here's what I say to that. One of the worst things that's happened is the pussification of the world, right? Especially the West. So here's the thing: if there are two things working against me. One is the fact that the laws have changed dramatically, right? Dramatically in terms of how you are allowed to have conduct with your kids, right? Especially for discipline. And then the other thing is having a girl. And men are biologically wired to treat girls very differently than they would treat a son. You know what I'm saying? The way that like when I was growing up, the way that the boys got whooped was completely different than the girls. I mean, you gotta remember the only girls I ever really saw get whooped were my cousins, and it was a family full of girls. He had 4 girls, right? And yeah, they got whooped, but it was never to the extent the way boys got whooped. Like in the black community, especially when you see the way the boys got whooped compared to the girl. Like I said, if you ask most black boys, do you remember seeing girls get whooped really? Like unless it was like, a woman whooping them, like you did and ask them like, "Hey, did you see men, whether it be the father, the uncle, whooping girls?" They would tell you like, "I don't remember seeing that," because it just didn't really happen. Like they were there's a different set of rules. They just did not get whooped. I mean, you start going ask you can ask this to anybody, white, black, Latino, and be like, yo, if you got hit with the belt or the extension cord, the hanger, the sandal, whatever it is that someone was hitting you with, right? That older person, ask them the simple question. How were the girls treated the same as the boys? I have never heard someone say boys and girls were treated the same. Never. It was always like, no, no, no. Boys got that ass whooped hard because you got to understand, and you know this, Ken. If you are a male, all of your actions you're going to be held accountable for, right? Always you're held accountable. Girls are not held accountable. That's why the rules were boys learn very quickly that the rules are different. If a girl pushes you as a boy, yeah, I can talk all that, egalitarian equality stuff. But if I use the same force, you remember that whole you remember growing up, Ken, remember? Never hit a girl. Remember that? You're not allowed to hit girls. You used to hear that all
Hold
the
the
time.
door open for girls.
Hold the door.
Girls
Chivalry.
go first.
Well, do you know why? Because they know if you had a society where people said, yeah, everything is fair game, right? Then that means if a girl says something that you don't like, and you just decide, well, I'm going to respond physically, which is what girls do to other girls, and sometimes do to boys, where they hit a boy because he said something or whatever. Or think about it. You've seen you see this in movies. How many times have we seen movies where a guy says something, maybe at a bar, like a bar setting, and the girl slaps the guy? How many times have you seen that in a show, right? Right, Tim? You asshole, smack. Well, guess what, Ken? Just because you didn't like my advance, random woman, that doesn't give you a right to slap me, right? But if in society, if a woman slaps a guy in a bar, guess what? If you think for a second that guy can retaliate physically, he's going to be allowed to. You are gravely mistaken. That's where all the ass whoopings start coming in.
I learned that lesson the hard way.
Oh, yeah, you'll learn it quick. Because here's the thing, Ken. If I responded to a chick slapping me in a bar with physical, let's say what I felt was equal physical harm, all the white knights would get up in that bar and they would shut that shit down. You see what I'm saying? You start put hands on a female. They've done social studies on this, right? Where they have a couple walking and they have a man and a woman, and they say, let's see what happens when a man is berating a woman in public and kind of getting very demonstrative versus the opposite. You already know what happened. No one seemed to care when the woman was berating the man and talking loud and acting crazy. No one stepped in. No one said, hey, you can't talk to him like that, right? But what happened when you reversed it? Everyone steps in to be a white knight. See, the rules are different.
Yeah, I learned that lesson in grade 1 the hard way.
Oh yeah, you will learn it. Like as a boy, you learn real quick, didn't you, Tim? You are held accountable for your actions. Like you don't get to just hit girls. You don't get to just say and do whatever you want. Girls, if you notice, they're acting more outlandish, whether it be for attention, for clout, for just wanting to hurt somebody because some masochistic or say sadistic desires, whatever the case may be, they're allowed to do that.
Because I learned very quickly you're not supposed to hit girls or anyone, pretty much. You can't defend yourself in school, is what I learned very quickly.
Yeah. I was gonna say that might be the bigger. You know what, Tim? I think you just touched on something that's a little more overarching, right? Which is, okay, there was a time, and for people out there who are a little younger and didn't grow up during a certain time, there was a certain time where the biggest question, because you still had masculinity around, was who started it. That was the number one question you got. Who started it, right? Then it became this whole thing where, hey, someone's trying to hurt me. They're trying to harm me. I'm just defending myself. Oh, no. We don't allow that. But it's like, but I told you this person was trying to bully me, or I told you this. And we have a society now where like they don't go after the person who's doing something, right? They wait till someone reacts to someone doing something, and then they go, "Oh no, you're in the wrong." But it's like, but when I you were supposed to report it. Well, I did, and you didn't do anything. These schools don't do anything because remember, doing something requires hurting someone's fees. See,
yeah.
And then when do you notice though, Ken, when you hear these horror stories, right, of people just deciding it's time to go on a mass yeeting spree, right? Do you ever wonder where that comes from? It comes from an explosion, an outburst, because these people, especially because it's predominantly males, right? They were never given outlets for their natural male aggression. Every time that they wanted to respond to something, no, 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 give them more drugs, tell them that they're bad. There's only so long you can do that before someone just says, you know what, fuck it, and they strap
Yeah,
up.
I actually know this. I know that feeling very well because it was easy to get a reaction out of me by picking on me in little school. So people would do that for the entertainment. Remember, they're going for the reaction. If you ever want to build up a kid's defenses against bullying, you got to teach them how to just do the poker face because they're looking for the reaction.
I can do you one better. Not necessarily the poker face, because the poker face still gives that person who's attempting to gain control and get to you, they still think they can get to you because you're not doing anything. That's what they're going to continue to poke at you. What you have to do is you have to take control back. The way I learned to do this in middle school myself was to, and it's self-deprecating in a way, but it ended up working for me at least, is when people would say shit about me or about my parents or about whatever, I'd fucking run with it. I'd own it. Like, yeah, my mom's a fucking whore. My mom is a fucking whore. She has every STD in the medical textbook, and I think she's discovered 3 of them on her own. Like, that kind of shit. And
And
when
you
you
want a
do
piece
that,
of her?
yeah,
Gross.
and
No,
when you do that,
I
they're
get
just
it.
so
That
dumbfounded. Like, they don't know what to do. Like, they can try to poke fun at you, but that doesn't matter at that point. But it works. It especially works for bullying.
Well, I will say this though, it depends on the bully too.
Well, it also requires, it depends on the victim too. Usually the
Yeah,
victims of bullying are not sharp thinking people.
correct. They just kind of turtle up in general. Me personally, I believed that the way you solve problems is with violence. I believe that
Just like
violence
shooting drug
solved.
dealers.
Yeah, yeah. Going to the Philippines.
Call
Well,
back,
but
call
here's the
back for
thing, though.
the first, the pre-show
Yeah, the
banter.
pre-show. Well, here's the thing, though. There was a time when you start to hear all these moms, all these Karens, like, yeah, violence doesn't solve anything. Violence solves a lot. Fuck what every Karen and bitch made simp told you. Violence solves problems. Don't believe me? Watch this. Let someone bully somebody, Tim, right? You got a bully. Let someone just go full Bruce Lee on them, right? Does that guy bully again?
Probably not.
Nope.
Well, you saw the video of that, the big kid that picked up this little kid that was
Yeah, it was in
bullying him and
Australia.
slam him.
He slams him on the. That was the end of the bullying. See,
Yeah, that was the end
violence
of it.
solved that.
Yeah.
Going to school administration doesn't solve it. Writing letters doesn't solve it. Self-deprecating humor may not solve it. Maybe it does, right? But the one thing I can always guarantee you, violence ends bullying. This is you can ask anybody that question from any era. Be like this: hey, what happens if you whoop the bully's ass? That's it. Game over.
Well, so
So there's a thing is,
violence in and of itself, you have to win the fight, Drexel. And I
Well,
was a
yeah,
sized
but
runt in little school. Now, the reason you were talking about you talk about the elastic snapping, right? You could only push me so far, and then I'd snap back and I'd hurt someone pretty badly, which then would get me suspended.
well, back then, I mean, you just put a pencil to someone's throat. Fuck, you don't even need the heat. You got to remember when it comes to a certain age, right? When you look at kids of a certain age, savagery really does go a long way, right? Tim, were you here when J Love talked about that with her son? Were you here that day?
I mean, I'm here every day, right?
One of the one of the sons was getting picked on, so the older son stepped in, right?
Yeah, I'm the
And
oldest. I didn't have that.
so what ends up happening is this: they go like, "Oh, he's crazy." See, he can fight. You remember hearing that when you were growing up? He can fight. You just have to win the one fight. That's it.
Yeah.
I
but
Yeah.
if you can
mean,
solve it
people.
without throwing a fist, though, isn't that better?
No, God.
Well, the gift
Why
of the
not?
silver tongue will help. I do, now as an adult with stuff to lose, I prefer talking my way out of
Well, yeah, as an
situations.
adult, but I'm talking about when as a kid. And I will say this though.
Oh no, as a
One thing I
kid there
will
was
say,
no holds barred.
I will say this: your environment matters though, Because I'll tell you what,
It does.
you go to school in the inner city, if you think talking shit out is going to work, I promise you it won't. This the inner city does not work like that. I'm just going to try it. Try the talk it out approach. No, no, no. If you look at that environment, right, and we're all fully aware of how absurdly violent the inner city can be, right? There's a reason it's that way because the word shit doesn't work. Trying to, well, I'm going to use diplomacy. Yeah, that's not going to happen like that. Like, I preferred violence because I always noticed that violence got results. And when you listen to like kingpins and stuff, like I saw behind the scenes with Frank Lucas, right, the Harlem drug kingpin, and he talked about violence. He said when you use violence, people know. Like, oh, and Tim, this goes what you said about the Philippines. When you put the fear of God into someone, only violence can do that. Shame
Yep.
can only go so far, right? Words can go so far. When people know that there's a swift punishment that harms them physically,
At any moment.
at any moment, something severe, it's like, yeah, we don't do that. No, man, I'm just gonna go ahead and let's say I'm gonna bash this person's pumpkin, their jack-o'-lantern. Don't do that. I'm gonna TP somebody. Don't do that. Why? And then people start saying, yo, man, you didn't hear what happened to that one kid? Like, what happened? Was that how he got put in the hospital? He's crippled now. Yeah. See? There's a standard medieval times, right? Look, think about it. You had people, you had a situation where everyone, if you ever want to Google craziest, medieval torture and stuff, the Judas cradle, the heretic's claw, like insanely violent, brutal stuff. Why did they
I've
do
got those
it?
in my basement.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It's deterrent,
I mean,
right?
Freshman high school year, I hit someone with a square shovel.
Ouch.
That pretty much stopped that for the rest of the year.
Yep.
Not my proudest moment.
So there's a
But-
reason that I advise people against violence, because especially when you're entering teenage years, is if you have to defend yourself is different than if you initiate the aggression. I always make sure that point's made clear. But if the person that initiates aggression, in this situation, worst case, your record gets wiped when you're 18, pending some really crazy shit, right? Like one-offs. So you can reset and start fresh at 18. But the day you turn 18, that shit's different. And so if you've been priming yourself and training yourself to respond with violence and anger and aggression to any kind of provocation, whenever you're stressed out or whenever someone's fucking with you, then you turn 18 and then you do the same shit. You have now fucked yourself really bad.
Well, then everyone's such a goddamn pussy now, too. Because if you
Yeah.
just pull that shit in a bar, you're like 9 times out of 10, someone's gonna just pull a knife and stab you.
Yeah, I believe that. No, here's the thing. I actually agree with Ken. I agree completely. And I told people numerous times that I lament turning 18 and becoming a legal adult. And for me, growing up being the big kid was tough enough as is because which is what kind of like when we talked about earlier about the differences between boys and girls, right? What conduct is allowed by both sexes. The same is true based on color and based on size. If you are a big black kid, don't think that the rules are going to be equal. Oh, you got jumped? Yeah, go ahead and use force. Somehow you're the bad guy. You're like, wait, I got jumped. I was like, no, but you're just so much bigger. You're like, wait a minute. And
And that's why I
so
have problems with that, because you have people like you have an overrepresentation of like blacks in prison and who have felony records. And there's a lot of that from the environment too in their community. That's the way they were raised. That's a lot of what they were exposed to. They didn't have the opportunities like me or you or Tim, to where we could have maybe learned to deal with our shit in a different way. That's and that sucks, and it's sad because you see so many lives ruined in the process, and it's
I
horrible.
agree with that.
There's not really a solution that will always work. You can't. The advice that works for me won't work for Drex. Drex is a different person than I am, and grew up in a different environment. And the advice that works for Drex and I don't work for Ken, because Ken grew up. I guarantee that, or I'm just gonna go out and guess that Ken went to some prep school.
You were really fucking wrong. But okay.
Anyways, I'm not even basing that on anything. I'm just gonna say it. I have no evidence to suggest that you went to a prep school,
Listen, I grew
but
up in
I'm
the
just gonna
hood.
go out. It just works. It just works. it suits the fantasy.
My graduating class had less than 100 people, and it was a public school. It's a small
Damn.
school.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, it was cool because I knew everyone for the most part.
Yeah, mine was.
Ken, I
quite a bit
fantasize
bigger.
about you.
We know this. You've talked about this before.
Anyways, I think we need to get back on track here because we are 2 hours into this recording.
Let's do it. Let's do it. All right, we're about to get back on the track.
We're supposed to do things on track here. That's not how I roll.
Yeah, right?
Okay, we do know you roll into Kiwi Farms. Ken, can you explain what the Kiwi Farms are?
A place you should never go. The end.
Would you say it's the National Enquirer of Internet e-celebs?
Where the fuck are you finding this definition? Because that's something I've never heard of before, or at least defined that way.
I mean, does it make sense? It's basically the gossip magazine for online personalities.
You could say that. There's a way that you could say that. It's also not just a gossip place, though. It's a place where you can just lay the fuck into someone.
Yep.
Like you could just go at them and just talk shit about them.
You know, kind of like the paparazzi does, like when Lindsay Lohan was going to rehab.
Ugh.
Is the Farms more autistic than there's a certain type of autism in each place, and they're different. And it's internet types of autism, obviously, not real autism. Though there is a funny thing I was mentioning it in my one stream is that gender dysphoria does have a correlation with autism. There is a significant amount of people in research that end up being diagnosed with gender dysphoria who have autism spectrum disorder, which is funny in a way. That's actually true.
The left likes to go on about how gender is a social construct, which they're only half right. The attitudes towards a gender and the expectations of that gender are social constructs, right? The way a boy is supposed to act, the way a girl is supposed to act. That's why I always have a problem with characterizing someone a certain way because they act. It's like, oh, that boy is acting like a girl. Well, what does that mean? Like you are stereotyping when you say that. Because gender is such a societal reaction, and people with autism have difficulty. Well, certain types of autism have difficulty with social cues and social behaviors. Is there a possible connection there?
As far as like them misrepresenting what the social expectations are, and that's what's the cause for the dysphoria?
Yeah, or maybe not even a cause, but sort of the mechanism of which it fires, right?
I'd have to dig more into that because I only saw really surface level shit when I was doing my research for my last streams.
Does it sound plausible?
I don't know, because you have to remember what dysphoria is and how it functions. It's not like just misunderstanding someone's gender expectations for your culture, because remember, Western societies gender expectations are different than other countries in different cultures, so that's also a factor that plays into it too. So diagnosis of that in like the US would be different than in say Middle Asia, East Asia. They may
I'm pretty
diagnose
sure you
it
get
differently.
stoned in the Middle East if
Look, it's a very LGBT friendly place.
absolutely.
You get your pilot's license once in the Middle East as a gay person.
Oh man.
What? Just saying. It's pretty nice of them to do that, isn't it? But
Please don't kill us, Susan.
yeah, I know you guys are all fucked now. I think because that's a topic that like I said, I work with that population. I'm involved into a lot of those communities, so I have to look more into that because it's an interesting idea, but I don't know if it will pan out as far as being a cause for it. Because it's, I have a couple of clients right now that are autistic that, I've done role plays with them on um, understanding social cues because one of my clients says he's uncomfortable, like he doesn't know if he responds to people right. So I tested him with a bunch of different examples of social cues. Like I was angry, I was sad, I was upset, like all of those kind of things. He damn near aced it.
Was it Ron
And
Toye?
no, Ron's score on that was really bad.
Anyways.
So
Did we wrap up the Cynthia thread?
no, I don't think we did. So
So
if we were
we're
to
like 2
go and
hours.
if I were to have if we want to do this little flow chart for fun, uh, because why not? If you came into my office and you presented with the symptoms you had, this could be a tool I would use to help diagnose you. Is okay, where's your issue coming from? Right. So at the top, I don't know if you can see it or not, Drexel.
Probably not on the
Uh,
tablet.
so at the
Yeah,
top of the
it won't
flow
show me
chart,
nothing.
it's sexual dysfunction in a male, right? So the next one is in the flow chart, entirely explained by a lack of adequate stimulation. If yes, then it's not a sexual dysfunction because you're just not getting enough stimulation. Okay,
Yeah,
so if
so
it's not,
divorce your wife.
yeah, or your boyfriend, um, or husband, however you roll. So if it's not that, then your next option on the flow chart is due to physiological effects of a general medical condition, such as a vascular disease. And if that's the case, then it's caused by a general medical condition. So it's not psychological. So if that's no, then it would be the next question would be due to the physiological effects of a substance. So including medications. And then if yes, then you can, there's another question that goes with it. So that ends up either diagnosing it as a substance or medication induced sexual dysfunction, or if it's a different way of characterization, then you're just intoxicated or withdrawing, which is causing the sexual dysfunction. So it's not necessarily the medication or the substance itself, it's just the being on it or withdrawing from it. And
Mhm.
so if it's not due to those things, if it's not a medication or a drug, so let's hope we weren't like doing drugs. We're good boys and girls. So it dads, right? So better explained by another mental disorder. So like major depressive disorder, because that will cause you could have low libido there, especially if you take certain antidepressants. But there are ways to balance that out if you are having issues with your antidepressants causing low libido. Um, so that would be a mental disorder. So it's not specifically a sexual dysfunction. Because if it's like, say, you are depressed and you are taking meds, and your meds are causing your sexual dysfunction, then it would be medication induced because your meds are causing it. It's not a psychological thing. And then so another one is moving down the flow chart is better explained as as a consequence of severe relationship distress. If yes, then it's a relational problem.
Also
So if you're
divorce your wife.
or husband, uh, being inclusive here, Tim, say. And so
I
if
mean, you
you're,
can. I'm not.
I'm going to. I've got to keep up in my my image here
Well,
of
you specified a binary gender, and I think that's very uninclusive.
listen. I can rant for about 2 hours on that fucking topic. Um, 2 more hours. So the next would be deficient sexual or erotic thoughts or fantasies and desire for sexual activity lasting at least 6 months and causing clinically significant distress. So you're having a lack of sexual thoughts or arousal and lack of desire for sexual activity at least 6 months in length, and it's causing you distress, right? And then, so if that's the case, the next question is occurring in the context of a desire discrepancy in which the man has lower desire for sexual activity than his partner. If that's a no, that's a male hypoactive sexual desire disorder. So you just have a low desire for sex. Now, if that's a yes, we move on to the next one, the
Man,
next image.
that has to be one of the most crippling disorders in all of mankind.
It's not necessarily like it's not. So, for example, that isn't like something you'll see in the DSM. Like that would be if you were to put it as like a code, it would be like other sexual dysfunction, and then you would like specify what it is because it's not like an official thing. It's just what it could be the cause of. If you look on the images, you'll see it as we come up. The ones that have like numbers on it, like they'll be like 2.7.3 or something. Those are ones that usually tie into like official diagnoses in DSM, if that makes
Oh,
sense.
okay.
So the next page, or so the next image. So marked difficulty obtaining or maintaining an erection during sexual activity lasting at least 6 months and causing clinically significant distress. That would be an erectile disorder, if true. Now, if that's not, we move on to the next one. Ejaculation during partnered sexual activity within 1 minute following penetration and before the individual wishes it, lasting at least 6 months, causing clinically significant distress. Premature ejaculation. There you go. There are ways to deal with that too. Every one of these has a treatment. So if you are experiencing one of these, there are ways to treat it. Just a heads up on that. So the next one is the
Many
opposite.
treatments.
Well, there are ways to treat premature ejaculation. Uh, numbing creams is one. Now there are also ways to treat delayed ejaculation. It's kind of doing the opposite. It's making yourself more sensitive to stimulation through
A lot of
different
porn
techniques.
stars seem to deal with delayed or
Well,
no.
remember, they have to come on command.
On command, yeah.
Yeah,
That
you have to
that that's
like,
gotta be a tough job.
dude, the pressure, man. Like it's already hard enough. Like you got all this pressure going
Phrasing.
on. The light, yeah, there's a lot. The lights from my webcam are streaming. My wife's not happy about it. There's a lot of pressure. So, I'm getting tips I'm getting tips on the computer and it's beeping. There's a lot of things like making me look elsewhere.
Dealing with sticky keys.
Very sticky keys.
Oh.
You gotta make sure you
You
turn
know,
that
when you
off.
slam the shift key with your penis 5 times in a row.
Yeah, you gotta make sure you turn that setting off in Windows.
Yeah.
We're on to the last one here. So, if it's not the delayed ejaculation, it would be the next question is clinically significant sexual dysfunction not covered above that represents a biological or psychological dysfunction in the individual. If yes, occurring in response to a psychosocial stressor. If that's a yes, then it would be an adjustment disorder. If no, it will be an other specified sexual dysfunction or an unspecified one. So we've been able to go through some of the more specific things, and it's just not there, or it could be a combination of several. And so you can put it as an other or an unspecified because we're not sure which one's the primary. Whereas if we were to look at all of the shit in this chart here, if I were to ask you, Tim, which one do you think fits the best? Let's see if you have the potential for being a counselor.
Well, I mean, I wasn't paying attention to half the time, so the
Oh,
answer is no.
Jesus Christ, Tim. Okay. So
okay, hang on. Let me go back. I have the image here. Let me go back.
while you do that, someone in the chat was asking if sex offenders are supposed to take a medication that keeps them flaccid. So there are different medications you can be prescribed for that. Not
chemical
every state.
castration.
It's chemical castration, effectively. A lot of it, sometimes you'll see it with like done with like estrogen or progesterone. Sometimes they'll do low doses of that.
Oh shit! So Ron Toy's a sex offender.
Yeah, possibly.
I'm
Again,
joking. Jesus Christ, don't sue us.
allegedly.
Yeah.
So
That
there
would explain
is.
his high estrogen levels, though.
I could do a whole stream on the topic of sexual offense.
That's the thing is, it's not entertaining to talk about.
Yes, it is.
Everyone gets depressed by the end of that because you have to realize the reality is this is a thing that's in our society and we're never going to get rid of it.
You don't have to get rid of it. You have to minimize it or reduce the harmful effects of it.
Just give everyone a doll and a state-mandated girlfriend. Perfect. We're done.
Look, I'm talking to Phil about how we talk to the legislature about that. It's in the works. But until we get there, there are things that we do as a way we treat sex offenders that actually makes it more likely for them to reoffend. and more likely for adults and children to be harmed in the process. So,
Um, I have an argument against that, but that's for another day. Um,
okay.
I'm looking at the chart here. I think we're going to end up going all the way to the bottom of this chart. But I do think it was, I don't know what the definition of psychosocial stressor is, but I think that's what it was.
So you would say it would be that, and then it would be an adjustment disorder?
Yeah.
Okay, that would be what I would pick too. So a psychosocial
See,
stressor is a psychological or a so it's psychological or social influence stressor. So like you can have like a social situation influence you, and then that can obviously impact your psychological functioning, which then causes something like an adjustment disorder.
so
Um,
I've got there's a number here, which means that is in the DSM, right?
so that's actually adjustment disorders in the DSM. That 3.7.2 actually refers to the handbook I have. Let me actually go to that real quick in my handbook because it's like a 300 and something page book. So 3.72, where the fuck is that?
Maybe we don't need the entire entry read out,
Uh,
but
it's
what
not.
would the treatment, the
Uh,
section on
so
treatments?
so for an adjustment disorder, it's a lot of recognizing what the cause of the situation is. So, for
And being able to
example,
kind of walk them through it.
yeah, so you have to identify the cause for this. So, if you're going through, say, a divorce, or say you're going through a divorce, your kid's struggling with it. If it's less than if it's less than 6 months or more than 6 months, it can be an adjustment disorder. If, for example, certain things, if it's more than 6 months, then you would try to do something like more specific. So if it's less than 6 months for like a kid who's depressed, I could do an adjustment disorder that's specified for depression with depressed mood. And then after 6 months, if they're still showing symptoms, I could do like if they haven't like gotten better or if the symptoms are still significant, I could do like a major depressive disorder diagnosis.
Wait, we're still talking about like the sex drive.
I was just using it as an example. Um, but for the sex drive is in this situation, you have to dig through the history of how do we get to
Well,
like we recognize there's a specific date and time that something happened.
there's a TV show, Lone Star 911. Have you seen that show?
Which one? I
No.
don't know.
Okay, no. Okay. Anyways, they have a kind of an explanation. It's a TV explanation of how PTSD works, and described on the show because there's a firefighter who lost his entire unit to an accident, and so he's trying to work through the stress. He was the survivor, the sole
Oof,
survivor of an explosion.
oof.
Um, and the therapist tells him that one of the biggest reasons that you have these nightmares and these flashbacks is because your body is trying to finish unfinished business because you went into a protective state at the moment of the event, the traumatic event. So you never concluded that sequence of thoughts. Is that kind of what happened to Drexel here? Is he had to go back into that moment and conclude the sequence of traumatic thoughts and bring them to a resolution so his brain could move on and forget about them?
Well, anyone who's dealing with, and I don't know if I like the way that's characterized. Maybe,
It's a TV show,
yeah,
obviously. It's
I know.
badly
It's
characterized.
because it's not necessarily that you're replaying it. It's in those situations you can shut down and like you're trying to protect yourself psychologically. Like you just will, you can dissociate where you don't remember shit consciously, but you can have things that trigger those memories, like the whole perfume, the cologne of the guy who raped you kind of thing. It triggers you to have like a PTSD episode just because that person, who abused you had that cologne and they wore it all the time. Like those things can trigger like panic attacks or episodes, you know, because of their PTSD from the trauma that they suffered. A lot of it, because I've got the criteria up real quick, but there's usually like intrusive thoughts. You were normally a witness to a very traumatic event, either in person or you learned of it happened to like a close family member or a friend, or you get experienced repetitive exposure to aversive details of traumatic event. So, like, first responders collecting human remains or police officers repeatedly being exposed to details of child abuse. So even if they haven't seen the abuse itself, just hearing that over and over and over again, that can be something that can induce PTSD because it's a lot of shit to listen to. And then you'll see things like, recurrent involuntary and intrusive distressing memories or distressing dreams, dissociative reactions, so like flashbacks. So it feels like the situation's recurring, and those can be on a continuum. So you can have a complete loss of awareness of your present surroundings in some more severe cases. Like you will just not recognize where you're at. Like it doesn't seem like you're in this moment. Um, then there's also
Could
for
you have like full
children,
on hallucinations?
uh, it wouldn't necessarily be a hallucination. It depends. Because there's ways to characterize things that are a little bit different. Um,
Okay. Oh, damn it, we're off track again.
No, we never did that. It's related. I mean, it's related. Depending on the
Kinda.
person, you could
Yeah.
characterize this as a post-traumatic stress, because it is a
Yeah, Drexel
traumatic
has
event.
PTSD.
Well,
We'll just go with it.
if I forced you to have sex with a guy, Tim, would you not find that being traumatic? Or if you were almost forced to have sex with a
Depends on the
guy,
guy. Like if it was you, I'd find that what's the opposite of traumatic?
see my pictures in your DMs. That's what you'll find it as. Um, but no, there's a lot of things
I've
that
seen your OnlyFans.
yes, you have. Which is definitely under a different name now because people have not been finding it properly. Um, there are a lot of like traumatic stress is very difficult to manage, and a lot of people sadly misuse some things that you do see as clinical things, like PTSD or OCD. Like that's a common one that people like. Oh, I'm OCD. Like, no, you're not. You're not fucking OCD. Shut up. You know.
Mhm.
Let me show you a
But
real
I am
OCD.
OCD. I'm
Shut the fuck
OCD
up, Tim.
about keeping. Hey, I'm OCD about keeping this podcast on track.
Are you though?
Yes, because it dangerously affects my life. It has ruined several relationships.
How has it ruined several relationships?
Well, first of all, I'm not. My neighbors aren't the biggest fan of me yelling into a microphone at 12:30 in the morning.
Well, fuck them.
Boo.
Like literally, that might make them feel better.
Yeah, we'll do that after.
Are are they old, young, middle aged?
A little older than me, middle aged.
Okay, so like in their 60s.
You want to go?
I mean, if I've been waiting for a date for a while, so let's do it.
Use words.
I'll give you a pound, and you'll never remember.
Listen, I was telling someone in chat on Nick's Discord earlier, is I can introduce you to fetishes and kinks that you never could have thought existed, and you will wish you didn't know existed when I'm done with you.
Uh-huh. Sounds. Don't threaten me with a good
I'm
time.
sure Drexel can do that too. So
Look, man. Well, I think the feeders was the worst.
What are the treatments for adjustment disorder then, other than like, so you just kind of talk it out, right?
like it would be recognizing because I do a lot of like cognitive behavioral therapy for things like depression or anxiety, and it works in a lot of situations too. So in this case, you could probably under finding the underlying cause of, you know, like if the issue with the sexual performance is related to a trust issue or related to a fear issue, like there's a lot of things that it could be at the root of the issue there, right? And if you take, and you might have to do each one of them because they all might be playing enough of a role that you have to address them all. Sometimes concurrently, sometimes you pick the biggest one and work on it first. So if it's like a trust issue, that's why
Much
the
like
only
the approach to
person,
a gangbang.
yes. So you take someone, in this situation, if you look at the history, the first incident where we were able to successfully have intercourse was with someone we had previously had intercourse with and we have a significant level of trust with. versus just the idea of sex with someone new is just not even erotic at all. Like, it just doesn't exist. So there's a lot of probably trust going on there. You had a situation where someone said, "Hey, this go fuck this chick. This chick's good." And then you get someone busting in the room going, "No, no, they were a dude." Like, there's an issue that you can have with trust there clearly, you know, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense. Am I coming off right?
Sure.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
I mean, I'm not the expert.
Oh, no, I'm just making sure I'm communicating it in a way that's being understood.
Oh yeah, no. The explanation made sense.
So, yeah, like, that could be at the core a trust issue. You had someone you trusted to tell you, "Go fuck this person," and then this person you can't fuck because it's not a good idea to do that, for some reason. I don't know what it would be, but so now you don't trust people to tell you, or you might not even trust yourself to make the decision to go fuck someone, right? It's not safe because we have this incident that happened. Even though we think it's not a big deal, it still ends up being a big deal, whether we want it to or not. Like, so even though Drexel doesn't personally have, memories of it being a big deal, it still impacted him for 11 months on some form or fashion. Even if it wasn't clear to him at the time, there was something going on there because you don't go 11 months without sex if you have sex pretty frequently, if there's not something going on.
It's well, one of the things that I'm actually very grateful for is that you're looking at a situation that's temporary because you imagine like something traumatic that happens, especially if it's psychological. So like to have in some ways it's better to have something physical. Like if something physically happened to you, like okay, that's why, right? Like it'd be like if you have like a serious spine injury, okay, that's why I messed up. The worst thing is to have a mental situation, right? It's in your head and you don't recover. So like permanent ED is a horrible thought. And of course, obviously, like you said, there's lots of factors. Are you using drugs for, I was gonna say that, diabetes, high blood pressure, things like that. Medications of that nature tend to limit, inhibit one's sex drive or their ability to gain and maintain an erection. But at the end of the day, man, I am grateful for some temporary agony. You know what I'm saying? Because you think about it, Ken. What if one of your patients came in and no matter what you said or tried to help them with, it was permanent? That's actually tragic to see. You see what I'm saying? Like whereas if someone says, "Yo, Tim, I'm glad. Thanks for your help. I got over it. It's in the rearview mirror." Like that's what you want to see. That's what you want to hear, right?
My goal is to have my clients end up not needing me, whether that takes weeks, months, or years.
Hmm.
I've had my counselor for my psychologist. I've been seeing her for 5 years now, and that's just the one I'm seeing at the VA. I was seeing counselor before that when I was in the military, but I've also been working on different things. It's not like the same problem, but I also get a benefit from it. And there's also professional help with that too, because it's someone who's more experienced. I can bounce ideas off of them. If I have like a difficult client, people I work with who are also counselors have counselors and therapists and shit. You know, it's pretty common. You would be surprised um, at how many counselors or therapists have their own. But
How much of that do you think is just dealing with other people's issues? Do you think that's what mainly it is, or do you think that a lot of counselors tend to
it can
have
be.
their own baggage coming in?
Well, you have your own shit coming in, and then there's, one of the things you have to be conscious of in pretty much every interaction you're having with a client is whether or not you're letting your personal life slip into your professional life. There's a
I know I let my personal life slip into your professional life from time to time.
yeah, you gotta stop sending me those pics at work. But my boss doesn't like those emails. But you have to be conscious of it because if you're, say you were sexually abused, right? You have someone coming in who was also sexually abused, and they're telling kind of a situation that's very familiar to you, and it's something you haven't really dealt with yet, or you're still struggling to deal with. You can have transference or countertransference of your shit onto the client, or you can kind of personalize their shit and think of it as your own. So it's like being able to draw the line of, this is my professional view, this is my personal view. Like, I'll have people come in my office and I'll be like, they'll talk like shit about politics, or they'll talk shit about other things. Like, whatever, you can do whatever, you can believe whatever, you can fuck whoever. I don't care. I have my personal beliefs, but in my professional capacity, obviously I'm very accepting and inclusive because that's just what I do for the job. So I also try to let certain things personally come up, because it helps too with a lot of the things I do, because I do family therapy with, kids and families, or I work with kids, and, you know, letting them figure out that they aren't just gonna come in and talk to some stranger that they don't know nothing about. Like, why would you do that? You wanna know something about them. So I normally give a little bit of my background. I tell them, if you have questions or you wanna know more, I'll tell you what I can, you know?
Well, I think we're ready to wrap up for tonight. I think our Patreons got they got their money's worth tonight. We got 3 hours of Ken content.
Yeah, I don't know, like, I'm obviously trying to build my channel, but I don't know if I could do what Nick's doing, like pulling my live streams off my main channel, sticking them somewhere else. I'm like, I just need a fucking anyone to look at my shit right now. Just
Yeah,
someone please come
exactly.
click on my shit and let me get watch hours. Let me get fucking views.
Plug your
Yeah,
shit.
go ahead. Shameless plug. Go ahead and plug yourself.
Um,
Oh, I'll plug them. Don't worry.
I was plugged before we started. Um, you gotta be ready for that shit. Uh, so my YouTube channel, I believe it's still. I haven't done the official like name thing yet, like where you can do the
I'll put a link in the
YouTube.com.
description.
Yeah. So if you look up right now, it's Ken Jennings KF, but it's going to be changed to Ken's Counseling Couch as the full name. But if you search that, I'm like the only fucking person who comes up when you search that.
And his alternate channel, Ken's Casting Couch, where you see sexy nudes, tasteful nudes.
No, I also have a second channel that there's no videos on yet, so you can't find it. It's Ken's Counseling Couch 2 Therapeutic Boogaloo.
Oh,
Because I was trying to come up with a name and I was bored and I was tired, and it's like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it. Why not?
that's so original.
Yeah, I know, right? Uh, I also have another channel that is gonna be for like backup content or other things, or for like archiving certain things too. Just as a doesn't hurt to have. Uh,
Nice.
What about people who want to support your content? Can they do so?
yes, I have a locals, so you can go to kenscounselingcouch.locals.com and follow me or subscribe to me there. Uh, I am trying to work more on making content. I've been dealing with, if you heard me bitch earlier about trying to do our fucking IT migration, and now I'm dealing with other fallout of that. So, and I just have a lot of clients right now, but I am trying to make more content. I'm trying to set aside time for it. Um, some of my content takes time for me to do research, like the whole transgender children and medical interventions episode. I had to, dig up information, go through, put slides together. Uh, I don't necessarily want to always do like off the cuff streams. I'll do them, but I'll probably do those more for people who follow me on locals, is because you can let people ask questions and shit. Obviously, none of that's therapy. Go find a therapist if you need therapy. But I'll happily answer questions and shit in those situations.
Ken, I do have a suggestion for you.
What's that?
I think you should do some things on your channel with you giving your expert analysis of whether it be something that's like in a movie, or you can even use like Hollywood celebrities, right? Like Angelina Jolie would be like a great topic, right?
Or
The
Angelina
relationship she had with her
Ballerina.
dad, John Voight, the adopted kids, the trying to turn one kid to a trans kid, the like I think that like I think if you look at celebrities, like someone has a picture of Lindsay Lohan in here, right? Like I think celebrities would be a good thing for you because now you're just using your expertise. You can write down, you can have your notes, and you're just kind of like looking at like, yo, this is how this person got into the industry. These are the problems going on, like the Macaulay Culkin, which is kind of like the show dad, right? Show mom, show dad.
Mhm.
I think that'd be interesting to see your perspective on is celebrities and just kind of almost like having a celebrity on your couch, right? to kind of give your take on how they kind of go about what they've done, because you've seen this, right? Like some of the Amanda Bynes, you know what I'm saying? She was one of those, I think, was she Nickelodeon kid, Disney or Nickelodeon?
The thing is there are people like there's a really good and this guy's got hundreds of thousands of followers. He's a psychologist who does shit like that on those big events. Like he's done like videos on like some of the like serial killers, some of the popular big events, like the more major things.
I'm wondering how much of his subscribers are women
I don't
if he's
know.
doing serial killers. Though they're into that shit.
It's Dr. Todd Grande, Grande. He's got a lot of really good shit. Like I watch his shit because he's really good at what he does. But he does really good things like that. I've been trying to do specific types of content where people, like for example, the trans kids one is a very difficult topic that if you try to take a side that doesn't run with the expectation, people will flay you for. I've been trying to present it. I mean, my personal opinions are there, but trying to at least lay it out on the table to where people can kind of understand that they're not being told the truth. Like there are lies being told in what can or can't happen as far as medical transition goes. You can't get surgery unless you're 18 for full genital reconstruction surgery or reassignment surgery. That just is not doable under the standards of care. It's not how we do it in the States. It just doesn't happen unless someone's breaking the law. And if they're breaking the law, a new law isn't going to do anything. So, I mean, you're at that point anyway.
Well, obviously, we just need to ban assault rifles, and that will just fix the trans issue.
I was going to make a joke there, but I'm going to hold back on that one.
He just found it too late, folks.
Can never hold back on me.
Well, I have to, otherwise you have that one issue we discussed earlier of the premature thing, and I don't want to have that happen.
That was one time. Anyways, Ken, thank you very much for joining us.
It's not a problem.
Always
Thank
love
you.
your take.
Indeed, it was a pleasure.
I don't know what's so special about it. I still haven't figured that out, but apparently people like it. So
you're a very special person, like I said in the introduction. Putting the special in special guest.
And special ed.
Oh, there's so many ways you can go with that.
Oh, yes, there is.
We love them. Oh, by the way, I have a suggestion. Take the some of the stuff that you've posted in the farms and convert them into a video. Just a short 10-minute video.
Do that to like the run to it, because like I don't want to take like all the Toya shit, because like that was all the Crest stuff and the run. We did that stuff with Crest and Run for the Toya shit, and I don't want to like pull from them because it kind of was necessary in a way to have them, and so I wouldn't want to steal it. So I'll probably take the analysis and just do a shorter video on it instead of like a stream. And
yeah, and the shorter videos they always play well with the algorithm.
I also want to do. I'm trying to stick to specific people, at least public figures or limited purpose public figures, so I can avoid a lawsuit. Because I can technically talk about public figures because it's not defamatory and it's not outside of my ethics for my profession because I've already doubled and triple checked that. So I can talk about shit like this. I'm thinking my next one I want to do the Emmett Plant accusations of the Discord stuff because anytime someone talks about him, he threatens to sue people. And I just would love to get under someone's skin like that because it's fucking hilarious. Just like with Ron. It's fucking hilarious.
I hope you know a good lawyer.
Another message. I want another message to the real Ken Jennings because it's just going to be fucking great. Just him getting messages like every month or two. Like, who the fuck are these people?
Yeah, right.
Why are they fucking messaging me? Like,
oh shit.
God, that hilarious. Like, or someone like the asshole who's trying to sue Nick sues Ken Jennings just because. That would be great. I would die happy. Like I would be fine just passing away right there. Like that's just a fun. There's no funnier outcome for me on that. Like I feel bad that he'd have to go through that, but it'd still be too funny.
All right.
At least you'd be a bit.
All right. Let's get out of here for tonight. You guys know where to find us. Bonus episode 5 will come out. This episode releases on the the 23rd. Yeah, so you listening to this on the 23rd, our bonus episode comes out on Sunday, the 25th. So remember, be a Patreon or Subscribe Star to get access to our bonus episodes. You can also listen to Ken's first appearance with Nick Ricada in bonus episode 1 way back in December. Until next time, everyone, stay frosty.
Peace.